Hello, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day and have enjoyed your February so far. And I hope you're staying warm. It's freezing outside today. It's so cold. So I have with me today Lynn Nelson, and I'm really excited to introduce her to you. So I met I met Lynn's husband, Dan Nelson, and many of you may know him as Dan the Waterman. So I met Dan years and years ago. The same person who introduced me to biofeedback also introduced me to Dan. And when I met Dan and learned his technologies and learned about his water and all of these things, it felt very familiar. It was really cool. And so then I met, well, he moved and got married, right? And met Lynn, and you're going to hear their story. But Lynn was at our open house, and she said, I said, where are you working? And she says, well, I've been driving over to Belgrade to work. And I says, why don't you work here? And she said, I think that's a great idea. So here she is. Here she is. So she's been trained with the front desk, and she's been trained with hyperbarics and Emsella and doing the balancing part of biofeedback. So you might see her in your part of your biofeedback sessions as well, either at the beginning or the end. And I'm really excited to have Lynn here. She's a joy to work with and such a pleasure. So with that, Lynn, why don't you tell your story on how you got here?
Well, I'm really grateful to be here for one. But I met Dan back in 2011. A good friend of mine from Bozeman and her mother came up to see Dan because they were interested in what Dan did. And so I came up with them. And I just really loved what I saw, what Dan was working with, his water and his solid state technology. So I enrolled in a couple of workshops that he did, one in 2011 and then the next one in 2012. And we just enjoyed each other. We were attracted to each other. And so we started spending time together. And I enjoyed learning what I was learning. And we went hiking, and he was part of the astronomy group. So we'd go look at the stars, and just my kids would come up. And so we decided to get married in 2014, and we hit the ground running, just traveling. And he was working a lot, teaching. And so I worked alongside of him, whatever he wanted me to do. I booked plane tickets. I was like the go-to person.
Well,
And
I think I heard you describe this one time that, so let me back up and explain. Dan's a physicist, okay? And
yes,
so he had a particular affinity for water. He was a phenomenal physicist in his own right and world class, really. Just amazing. And if for anybody who took his workshops, it was really mind bending and mind blowing. He was amazing. So I only was able to do one of his workshops, but it was really fascinating to learn more about that. And and Dan, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Darn it. I hate it when that happens. So Dan's his physicist component was phenomenal, but then that's what I was gonna say is that you described yourself as the keeper of Yoda.
yes, he
Yes,
was,
yes, which is
he
a perfect
was
job description because he was a Jedi master. He was just like that. And then you were the one that had to kind of keep one foot on the ground, right?
right. He was a problem solver, and he loved research and studying. And so a lot of the other things that us normal people kind of deal with, like the booking of tickets or getting insurance or managing other things, I was really good at for him. So it was a great partnership. And anyway, I enjoyed it tremendously. So that's where, I met you guys, you ladies here at Dynamic Health Technologies. And so after Dan passed away, it I really needed to get out of the house and do some continue growing, continue on my journey. I feel very privileged that I still am keeping Dan's way back water and his solid
Mhm.
state technology available.
And what's
And
the name of that? What's the name of the group? The Proton?
the Positron
Positron.
group. Yes, and that's his private educational group that we still are keeping going. I'm going through Dan's journals, finding really interesting tidbits to share. So it's just been quite a journey, and
Amazing.
it's great to continue learning and being out there with people, because Dan's greatest pleasure, was to help his fellow man.
Oh, it
That's really
was.
what
There's a
he wanted
lifelong
to do.
mission of his for sure. Which as
So
a
I want
physicist, he wasn't just in a lab, it was all about,
practical.
yeah, it was all about a practical application, making the world a better place was the only reason why he did all the things that he did. And I think that's true of you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, describe for us, I'm gonna hold up a bottle here of the Wayback Water. So describe for us what this is. And yeah, just describe really what Wayback Water is.
Well,
And then
it's
I'll
been,
chime in too.
yeah, for one, it's been around. Dan developed that water over 25 years ago, and it was just a passion of his. And there's a distributor that's been a long time distributor of ours, and she kind of came up with a really simple illustration of what Wayback Water does. So if you can imagine the water particle as the size of a basketball, and the cell membrane as a tennis court net. And if you're trying to throw that ball through that tennis court net, there's no way it's going to go through efficiently. And so we want that water particle to get into the cell to help expel the waste that's accumulated and to hydrate the cell. So what Dan was able to do is to manipulate that water particle down to, now imagine the size of a ping pong ball. And so ping pong ball can go through that net quite easily and get in there and do its work and to hydrate. And so that, in a nutshell, is what Wayback Water is all about. Dan, it is efficient for hydration.
Right. I remember, so after I went to the one clinic of his that I was able to go to, and then you and I and Dan and Ian was there. And CJ was, I think CJ was there. We
She
went out to
probably
dinner at
was.
the Broadwater, yeah. So
Right.
we went out to dinner and just someplace simple that was close by, and we went out to dinner and I asked Dan to explain to me, I'm like, would you, in like fourth grader terms, explain to me what did you do to water? Because obviously water's such an essential part of life, right? And
Right.
what did you do to make it different? And I love the description of the basketball, but I asked him, what did you do to make that happen? And this is the way that he described it to me. So normally water has hydrogen here and hydrogen here and oxygen, down here, or in the middle, right? So it has this really wide angle. And when you bump it up against a cell wall, right? So if I'm bumping it up against a cell wall, it's pretty hard to get in. And he said, you know how water is hydrophilic. In other words, it likes each other. And it will, like if you take a glass of water and you fill it up to the very rim, it'll still keep filling, right? It'll bubble, it'll come up higher like that before it finally spills over. And that's because these molecules are so wild, these molecules are at a wide angle. And what Dan did was to change the angle so that now you have hydrogen, oxygen, hydrogen really close together like this instead of being like this. And I loved understanding that, because now it makes it really easy for the water to just slide into the cells.
Yes.
Now that you have water going into the cells, there's kind of a caution side of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You want to be careful. You want to do it slowly so your body has a chance to adapt to it, and to not overwhelm your system with well, kind of the water that's been in there is kind of like sewage, it's
stuck with toxins.
full of stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
full of toxins. And so you
So
want to assist your body in that. You want to make sure your colon is, and your liver are in good working order
yeah,
to
and so you
make
have
that
a ramp up schedule, right?
right.
Right.
Yes.
So now this is not new. For those of you who are new to Dynamic Health, we've been selling Way Back Water at least since you guys have been married.
Yeah. Since probably
Yeah.
2015,
15, yeah.
We got married in 2014.
I'm trying to think of the year that I met Dan. I think I met you in 2015,
Okay.
right around there, 15 or 16. And I didn't really spend very much time at all. I mean, you were familiar, but then you started dropping off cases of water at a time. So I
Right.
got to see you a little bit more often. Yeah, I'm trying, probably around 8 years that we've been carrying the Way Back Water. And some of our client base may be familiar with it already. So two things you need, there's instructions that go with it. Well, you might ask, well, why do I need instructions to go with water? Because if you drank this 16-ounce bottle of water straight, you would become very sick. You'd be not, you're just going to be in the ultimate Herxheimer's response, right? Your body's going to be processing every toxin you've eaten and trying to reprocess that all at the same time without really prepping for channels of elimination and having an exit strategy is what I like to call it. So, so you take 1 ounce, tablespoon.
It's 1 tablespoon. So
Yeah.
it's a half an
15,
ounce.
yeah, half ounce. So 15 cc's, right? You do 1 tablespoon of this in a gallon of water. So this is a concentrate. And then this changes that gallon of water. So you take one little tiny tablespoon that goes into a gallon of water, and then that gallon of water is what you ramp up with. So it's only, 2 ounces or 4 ounces, and you gradually work up. Right? Am I right?
Right.
Yeah. So
correct.
Yeah. So you gradually work up. I myself I was ramping up, and I had drank maybe, I don't know, 8 ounces of water in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it was on a Saturday. And then in the afternoon, I thought, man, I'm really thirsty. And I just drank another 8 ounces of water. And then the next day, I was achy. I was tired. I wasn't sick. I couldn't, it wasn't like I couldn't get out of bed or anything like that. I just was I was chunky, and I had this headache. I'm not sick. Why do I have a headache? And then it wasn't until like noon or 1 o'clock, and I'm like, huh, I drink water. I drink too much water. And so it really brought home to me how important it is to ramp up gradually. Yeah, really gradually.
Right. Good idea.
So one of the things that I have clients that have done chelation. Of course, a lot of us have other practitioners that we work with all the time. And I have another person who started doing, and let me share my screen here. Yes. An alternate schedule with Way Back Water with vitamin C. So I thought I would pass this on and share it with you. And you guys, a huge disclaimer, I am not prescribing. I am not telling you have to do this. I'm just saying that, and Dan said this, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dan was very specific that you don't take medications with Way Back Water. It'll make them stronger, right? So anything that's dosed specifically for you, you need to be really careful what you take with Dan's water, with the Way Back Water. You can't do 8 ounces of water and take all of your, if you're taking medications or something like that. And I'm even really careful to space out my nutritional supplements so that they don't get dosed in, differently than I intend. Is that right?
right. Yeah, you've got it.
Okay, so so way back water is really great for most people. Um, so this was somebody who's taking vitamin C at the same time, so the ramp up is much slower, so they don't detox too fast. And then, of course, adding the vitamin C antioxidant component of it. So this is just an example. So they're doing 2 ounces of the way back water for 2 weeks with just 100 milligrams, which is nothing, right? I mean, it's very low of vitamin C for 2 whole weeks, and then go up by 100 milligrams every day until they get to 1,000 milligrams. So for the last 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, right? For the last 4 or 5 days, they would be taking 1,000 milligrams with just 2 ounces of water. And then 4 ounces up to 2,000 milligrams. And then 6 ounces up to 3,000 milligrams, working your way up a little bit each day, right? And then 8 ounces with 4,000, and then staying at that. So depending on if you're doing, if you're wanting to detox, if you're wanting to improve your antioxidants, people, you can do all the research. Please do a lot of research. I'm gonna stop sharing. Please do your own homework on the benefits of vitamin C, and then just realize that the ramp up schedule is just going to amplify that as just as it would anything else. But I'm not gonna make any claims, but there's been a lot of people, including myself, that have really benefited from the way back water. And the nice thing about this is, even if you gradually work yourself up, and the maximum is 24 ounces in a day, right?
Yes. Yes.
That was the right number? Okay.
Mhm.
So does anybody, do you ever really need to drink more than 24 ounces of your way back diluted water, not this water, but the diluted water in a day?
It just
You need to
depends on
drink?
what the person is doing. I think if there's people that are working out in the hot sun, you know, depending on their lifestyle, I think it would be beneficial. I know Dan always suggested that, kind of depending on what your lifestyle is. I tend to myself drink the water if I make tea. I just use the way back water. I
Mhm.
have it and I enjoy it. And one of the other applications you can use, it makes a wonderful spritzer. Like
It
the mixture
does.
makes a wonderful spritzer for your skin. If you have a burn or um, a sunburn or a cut, it's soothing. It almost has a velvety texture. So there's different uses that people have been using it for. And I also um, use it for my pets. I have a
Mhm.
dog and 2 cats who love the way back water, so I make that available to them.
And do they drink that exclusively, or do you have other
They
water, or do they just drink
they
the way back water?
I switch it back and forth in their
Mhm.
water bowl, and they tend to know when to they know when they've had enough.
Yeah, they're
Animals
not
are
like
really
people.
they're very intuitive that way, so they do really
Brilliant.
well with it.
They're brilliant. When you're thirsty, please drink water.
Yes,
A lot, as opposed to a lot of it, I know, especially in America, a lot of us, when we get thirsty, we eat food because of
true,
increase.
because we're
Yeah,
dehydrated.
we eat fruit and we eat other things and eat fat when we really just need water. So
Right.
anyway, very interesting. So with the way back water, before you ring the phone off the hooks, you guys, the special for March is the way back water. So instead of it being, it's 25% off. So this bottle is normally $40. And remember, it makes 16 gallons of water, right? And you only need, even if you ramp up almost to maximum, you only need, up to 24 ounces a day, and that will take you a while to get up to that. So this will last you for an incredibly long time. And it's really been amazing for so many of our clients that struggle with hydration. The way back water has been really important, and really vital for them to regain their hydration when their cells just couldn't take any more on, already full of sludge. So the way back water has been really beneficial with that. One of the first things that I ever did when I'm always testing, I'm always playing, I'm always monkeying around with stuff. And I took the way back water and I took a bath, right? And so one of the interesting things was I just took like a couple ounces of the concentrate, right? And poured a couple ounces of the concentrate in my tub. But I poured it into another cup so that I could pour it all at once. And you could see the difference in the density of this water. This is not normal water. But I wanted to see how it interacted with water. So in my white bathtub, right? And I poured the way back water in, and it went in as all one clump, right? You could see it was heavier, and it didn't, like, if you just pour water into water, it just dissipates the same. But with the way back water, I poured it in and it all stayed together, and then all of a sudden it just went like it just,
Oh, cool.
you could watch it just spread, and then it was the whole bath. So that's one of my favorite uses of the water. You're going to go through it faster, but it's still such a luxurious bath. And I absorb a lot of, my skin is very porous, and hydration is a thing for me. And so to be able to take a bath in way back water has been so
Nice.
yeah, it's one of my favorite
Bet.
things to do, is to take a nice bath. Years ago, Dan shared with me a story of somebody who had a hot tub that was all just way back water and no chemicals,
Yes.
no anything like that, and overlooking a beautiful scenic place, and it was like magical. So that's food for thought, you guys. I'm not really sure. You'd have to check with Lynn on a bulk price if you're going to fill up your hot tub with, it wasn't the concentrate, it was diluted water, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, filled up the whole tub with way back water.
Very, very luxurious
Very,
for
very
sure.
nice. Yeah, really interesting. So, so if you want, I mean, obviously you can stop by now and get some water, but it'll be on sale in March. So it'll be $30 instead of $40. And we'll make sure and stay stocked up. And luckily Lynn's got us. She always has had the tap on that, but
I
we'll
do.
have it even more so. So Lynn is working on Wednesdays, and then she's got other times and other days where she's helping us out and doing buyouts and doing all kinds of things. So make sure when you come by and see her to welcome her into our team and into our family. And we're really excited to have you.
Thank you. And just one more, if anyone wants to get into like the science of the way back water, we do have
Yes.
information on our website. It's waybackwater.com. And Dan has his white paper posted where he talks about, water.
Yeah.
And
So yeah,
he
don't.
wrote, so there's more, because I don't tend to get into the scientific. I'm not Dan. I don't have Dan's mind. I'm just the caretaker to his things now. And I really want people, if they want that information, they know where to get it.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I intended to remind people. Yeah, don't, if you call the front desk, they're not going to adequately answer your scientific questions. Please go to the white paper. Go to
Please.
waybackwater.com has a lot of information on it, and really great. Now, just as a side note, the other piece that Dan did was create what's called solid state. And I don't know if you want to describe that, or if you want me to. For those of you who are familiar, CJ Puotinen has been trained in solid state, and your son, Ian, who's in Bozeman, Belgrade primarily, also does the solid state technology. And I've experienced that, and have had sessions from, I had sessions from Dan, and that's how I was introduced years and years ago, was just the solid state before I knew about the water.
Right. How would you describe it, Carol? It's
Well,
very
Yeah, so the way that I look at that is that we have the biofeedback system that we use is working with it's working with mathematics, right? So we're doing
Right.
an energetic scan of the body, and it's almost 1,000 calculations per line, right? And the way that I look at Dan's Dan uses sacred geometry, right? He uses geometric um images that have a create that are on discs and they layer. So if you're not familiar with sacred geometry, you should look at some of the really gorgeous images. But sacred geometry is basically the geometry of nature. Look at a flower, look at all these different structures in nature, and that is sacred geometry. And so what Dan did, what it the way that I describe it, in, instead of doing the scan, Dan could do his own scan, right? He did muscle testing, and that's the way CJ works, is kinesthesiology, right? So she'll muscle test and see if this would be beneficial for you. And Dan had very specific protocols that were just very specific protocols for creating balance within the body. But I look at every one of those segments as like one of our lines. Every single line was one of our signatures, an energetic signature, right? So he did it in a geometric panel. What we do, it's like the difference between, calculus and geometry, right? But it's all math, and it's all, which is the way the
Right.
world works, right? So I look at the technology that I was first introduced to, and then I looked at that and I went, oh, because we have sacred geometry on our biofeedback systems. And I was like, oh, this is sacred geometry. And then I got into it. I'm like, oh, this is like every single one of our line items is a line segment of Dan's work. And that's the way that I kind of think about it. So I'm sure you'll
Yeah.
get to correct me.
No, I don't know enough about the biofeedback. I think Dan would probably agree with you. He based all
I
his
think he
overlays
did. We
on
talked about that.
mathematic
Yeah.
equations. Yeah, I'm sure, because he enjoyed coming in for biofeedback as well. So it's basically using scalar energy that is around us and to direct oh gosh, it's just kind of hard
It's
to
like a
explain
funnel,
in a
it's like an
nutshell.
amplification. So there'd be a primary disc, and then you would add this disc, and do you need this disc? Or if you were just going through the protocol, right, then this one's for your heart chakra, and then this particular element will amplify that heart chakra. So it's just balancing. But no matter what, it's like no matter what technology you use when you're using wellness, it's all about balance. It's all about giving the cells the water they need, the tools they need, the energy they need. And it's just all about softening these crazy too much, too little, these ebbs and flows, right?
Right. The
Yeah.
balance. Mm-hmm.
It just feels like it's all about balance. And sometimes getting things, out of the way. That's that whole detoxing process, which some people need to go through. And regardless of what tools you use, some people do chelation, some people do herbs, some people do, saunas, foot baths, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Let me ask you one more question. What's been maybe the most surprising or the most fun? What is the thing you like best about being a dynamic health?
The endless possibilities of learning. It's there's it's not like a mundane type job that you just go to and just, do your little duties and go home. It's just like it's vibrant and full of energy and possibilities and helping people and just seeing the gratefulness of the people that come in to be helped. It's very satisfying to be able to help people. So it's just a really wonderful environment of positive, expansive people. I really enjoy that.
Fun. we love having you. It's gonna be it's gonna be a
Oh,
fun
thank you.
journey. Yeah, it's gonna be, it's
I've
good.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So when she
Thank
was
you.
at that, she was at that open house, and I'm like, why don't you work here? She's like, that's a super good idea.
I
It's
know.
end of story. That's all it
Brilliant.
took, right? And it's like, yep,
Brilliant.
that's
Yes.
that's that's a thing. And she's like, and then I said, do you, oh yeah, I already know QuickBooks. Score, score. It's awesome. We're all set. I was super excited.
Yeah,
All
worked
right.
out great.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for just a brief introduction and some exciting new things. And you may have, if Wayback Water might be old news, might be new news, but yeah, go to the waybackwater.com for more detailed information. And if you are interested in having solid state sessions with CJ, you can call us and we'll arrange that with CJ and with CJ Puotinen, who is also lovely. So she's typically here on Mondays, is her normal thing, but sometimes available other times. Just depends. Just depends. We'll fill up Monday first, I think. All right. With that, thank you, Lynn, for taking time today. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, everyone. Have a great day and we'll see you in March. Bye.